So today I would like to talk to you about how to choose the right partner, romantic partner, for your happiness. And let me introduce my point of view, and then we can start the discussion. So my point of view is that nature did not make us to choose the partner that is making us the happiest. Instead, nature made us the way that we choose the partner that will give us the best offsprings, meaning a partner that would take good care of the offsprings and that would produce offsprings that are likely going to be successful themselves to further pass on our genes. And that is, in many cases, I feel, what is leading us to unhappiness, because it's the wrong partner choice. And the partner choice for me is a very important part of overall happiness. And so I think it's important to think about it. What is really a good partner choice in order to be happy? So what are your thoughts on that? How do we choose the right partner?
Yeah, I think what happens a lot is that people, let's say, come from an abusive environment, family, and that's what they learned as children, that this is the normal model to relate to people, for example. And now they want to choose their perfect partner, but let's say if they are used to violence, then they will meet this non-violent person, and that non-violent person will be somewhat boring to them or somewhat not, stimulating enough. And they might even do something like this. They might even try to provoke this person to be violent until they are violent or until they leave them, because that's their emotional need. So there is this component of like what we bring to the table also from the family, and then we're looking for that even subconsciously, and we're repeating that kind of pattern. So that's one take, but
All right. Okay.
please
So you're
explain
saying
more.
basically that there are cases where from my past, from the childhood, I got certain psychological influences that now make me look for a partner, which is not the ideal partner for me.
Exactly.
Right? Okay. But generally, let's say I have a perfect childhood. There is nothing of these negative influences. Do you feel people are looking for the partner that is making them the happiest?
Well, given that someone has the good personality and really good home environment, they are more likely to choose the person who is sane and who is not violent and so on. So to that degree, for sure. But I can see your point that people would be attracted to more, attractive people who are not necessarily the most, faithful or prone to have stable relationships in that way, right?
Yeah, correct. I can see it for heterosexual couples as well as for homosexual couples. I can see it from both sides. So from a man to a woman, and from a woman to a man. I'd say mainly, however, it would be from the woman to the man, where I can see really bad choices. And what I mean with those bad choices is that I'm gonna draw a little graph here, a circle, if you can see that. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, how I see it is that if these are all the men, that are out there, then women have a lot of criteria, and they need this criteria because the men all want to be together with her. For example, on Tinder, everybody's swiping right. So a woman needs to have a lot of criteria, and this is basically works like this. So she's looking for somebody who is tall. Criteria more than 175. 50% of the guys already out. Okay? Then she's looking for somebody who is not skinny, who is muscular. Already another 50% out. Then she's looking for somebody who has financial stability, maybe income of at least $4,000 per month. Okay, another 50% out. Then she's looking for somebody who is confident, and again, another 50% out. And then she's looking for somebody who has at least a 7-inch penis, and another 70% out. And then basically, now not every girl has these criteria, but every girl would have several of these criteria, which basically limit her to about 10% of the maybe 20% of the population. And then we're really left with 10% that are the alpha male, where most girls would say all the criteria are met, okay, good guy, and they would go for the alpha male. And the other 90% of guys don't have any choice because no girl would select them, which then really means we have three categories of people. We have on the one hand the all the women. On the other hand, we have the alpha guys, and we have the beta guys, all the guys that are not alpha, which is basically 90% of the population. And the beta guys, meaning the 90% of guys, they're looking for a long-term relationship. They're looking for just for having one woman that they can take care of. But they don't get her because all the women are going for the alpha guys. The alpha guys get all the women. They make no emotional commitment because they have an ample choice. And the women all get frustrated because they feel that it's all about sex. Like Tinder is all about sex. And all the guys have commitment issues. But it's not all the guys, and Tinder is not all about sex. It's just that on Tinder, those people that get all the action in terms of guys are all the alpha guys because girls don't choose the better guys. The better guys would like a relationship, but they don't get any. The girls go for the alpha guys who get so many girls that they don't give any emotional commitment, which means the girls would say they have commitment issues. So the girls are unhappy, the better guys are unhappy, and maybe the alpha guys, they are also unhappy because what would actually be better for them is a long-term relationship. So everyone is unhappy, and that's a problem.
Okay, so you're saying that basically it's a model that frustrates everyone because no one is getting what they ultimately want. And
yes,
it's because we have that choice and we have the awareness of that choice. So everyone is choosing, quote unquote, the best. And maybe also like someone who is 5 out of 10 is trying to get 10 out of 10 because why not?
Exactly,
right?
exactly. And you're right. And I would say maybe for the alpha guy, it works out okay. So maybe for a guy like you, who's tall, handsome, intelligent, and so on, financially independent, maybe it works out okay. But I think for the rest of the people, it doesn't. For the majority of the people, it just doesn't. And I think this problem is always there. It has always been there. I think it's human nature to be that way. And for human nature, for the longest period of history, of human history, that's the way it worked, and that worked for effective reproduction because only a small percentage of guys were able to reproduce. Like 40% of the guys were able to reproduce, and 10% of the guys were able to reproduce really a lot. The majority of guys never were able to reproduce. They were just wiped out of the genetic pool. So I think for reproduction, it's good for making the gene pool better. But I think for happiness, it is not good. For happiness, I would say it's really bad. And I think we were in a period of time where it was basically about monogamous relationship, and somehow this made people happy. And I think nowadays with the social media and with Tinder, what's happening is that we're coming back to this situation where women see, they see their relationship, their boyfriend, at the same time that they see on Instagram Brad Pitt, George Clooney, and whoever other celebrity, and they feel like, wait, my boyfriend is not as attractive, good-looking, famous as these guys, and they might feel bad about their boyfriend. So their expectations, because they see in the same channel, they see the celebrities, the expectations, both for men and for women, goes up, and especially with Tinder, where women always get matched, so they can just go for the hottest guys, because otherwise they would catch with everybody. So they limit their choices to a very select few men who are all the hot alpha men, and all the other guys don't get any chances. And that is really leading to the big frustrations for pretty much everybody.
Okay, that's definitely true. It exists like that. But there's also the point where when they get frustrated, they are more willing to change their behavior. It's like Eckhart Tolle was saying that suffering is most people's only spiritual teacher. So at that point, they're like, okay, what I'm doing does not work. I cannot find that guy that will
Hmm.
also commit. So then they might look around, maybe outside of Tinder. There's
Hmm.
this cute guy at work, and da, 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 and maybe, you know, he's not that alpha, but he cares about her, the girl or whatever. So I think like with age, with experience, and also with the clock that's ticking at some point, then you know most women will get married somehow. So it's not like you know they're not getting that commitment in the end, but they might be getting it from different type of guys,
Hmm.
and that's also frustrating to the guys because the beta guys, as you were saying, are very nice and trying to be accommodating, and the girls when they're young, they're completely uninterested in them. And then after this guy, you know, is 35 and has a good job and has a house and whatever, all those girls that were rejecting him when he was 25 and now out of the sudden want to have, you know, babies with him and so on because they also now need to quote unquote settle down and such.
Yes, I see your point, and I do believe that this is true. That's what's happening, but I also see the point of other women that some people call them alpha women. No, sorry, alpha widow, which is somebody that's a woman who has been in a relationship with a guy who was an alpha guy. So he was attractive, muscular, tall, financially independent, confident, and he was maybe above her in terms of status, in terms of the love market. So she really got a good catch, and then they break up. And then she has several relationships with other guys, and she's never really happy because she was with this guy who made her happy, with this alpha guy, and then now she's always comparing her future relationships to that guy, and she doesn't really become happy. And I've had friends who had this problem. I mean, of course, I don't say to them, that's your problem, because of course it feels terrible for them. But I could kind of see that this is their problem, and
Mm-hmm.
and 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 they might not become ever happy because they always remember this alpha guy, the high status guy, and everything else they get seems worse.
Well, that can happen to guys as well. If
Of course.
they had like an amazing relationship and then they cannot find
Mhm.
anyone who would be comparable. So I think that's the risk of the game. Like you should be maybe appreciative of the fact that you actually experienced that because maybe most people will never have even that short relationship with that amazing person, right? So imagine that like this thing would never happen to that girl and she would never know how good it could be. So I don't know. It depends on how we approach it later on and whether we choose to feel, you know, gratitude for the fact that we had that experience, uh, or we choose to judge all the new ones that are not living up to the standard of the previous guy, right? So I think it's also psychological. And then maybe also what you're saying here, because technically, if she was able to attract this attractive guy, she should be able to attract someone of the same value. But with time, maybe the sexual market value is decreased, and then she cannot find that guy anymore, right? So maybe
Exactly.
that's
I guess that's maybe one of the main reasons why it's more common to find um, alpha widows than alpha widowers, because for women the sexual market value, and I hate using this term because I know people might feel this is superficial term, but I do believe that this really does exist, that we do automatically assess other people in terms of their market value on this love market, and that for women, the market value generally is highest when they're 25, and that's when they get a lot of the guys pursue them, make a lot of compliments, and they feel very special, and everyone seems to be trying to be together with them. And then when they are approaching 35 and 40, they see the market value is going lower, while for the guys, that doesn't happen in the same manner. Many times it might actually happen the opposite effect, because for guys, other things are more important. First of all, the beauty does not decline in the same way. And I mean, the attractiveness generally, and like somebody like Brad Pitt, George Clooney, they are still considered very attractive, even though they're
Yes.
over 50. And so there's also other things that are maybe more important, like the confidence of a man, the maturity of a man, the financial wealth he has. While for women, it's in terms of the overall market, it's mainly about the market value is mainly about the physical beauty. And that's not my opinion. That's just the general market opinion. And so that's why for women the market value decreases quite rapidly. For men it doesn't. And for women, they come into a situation where before they felt everybody was pursuing them, and now this doesn't seem to happen anymore. And now they have to kind of go with guys which they feel should be much below their level.
Yeah, well, that's definitely how it looks for women. But then on the other side, from the guy's perspective, all the guys that were, trying to be nice to girls for, during their 20s and so on, and they were getting rejected all the time, and they were, put in the friend zone. That's another big, bloody, place where people suffer a lot, and they were getting, one-itis, basically obsessed with one girl who is the perfect girl, but she never wanted them because she was running with those alphas and so on. So I do see that on both sides of the spectrum, there is a lot of suffering in the end. But there are some things that people can do, I believe. Like on one hand, the beta guys can maybe become more alpha, and that's something that can be done. And then on the other hand, women, I think also, if a woman is actually developing herself, if she's growing with the years, she has better and better vibe, and then she also perfects her diet, her exercise routine, her skin care, her makeup things. So I think there are some women who are, let's say, 35, and they're like super attractive, and it's because they perfected every single component of their routine to make themselves look amazing and feel amazing and be very healthy. And they read a lot, and they are very evolved as people. And they do have this magnetic vibe that they are still able to attract very high quality guys.
Yes, yes and no. I do think it's possible, yes, of course, to modify nature to some extent. But I also think that the fact that the attractiveness of women becomes less after 35 has a purpose. I think there is a evolutionary purpose for that. And I would say that this has to do with the fertility. The main reason why most of the men are attracted to women, and are attracted to women mainly before their 40s, and even more before the 35, is because that is when the woman has fertility. And I mean, the only reason why nature made us, the majority of people, the heterosexuals, are interested in the other gender is for reproduction. And if there is no reproduction because the woman is past her fertility point, then it makes sense for nature to say, okay, stop attraction. It doesn't make sense for you to be attracted. And then there's certain hormone changes in the woman that modify her body, which signals the guy, all right, I have reached my menopause. I'm no longer fertile. Thus, you should not be attracted to me. I know this sounds really superficial, but nature is really cruel. And again, the everything that I wanted to say is we should see that nature is cool. We should see that nature does not make us make the right choices in order to be happy, and we should see that actually we should think about happiness and not about what nature wants us to do.
So what is your solution for like making us happier as a result of all of this?
All right. Okay. So generally, just first of all, realize that nature does not want to make us happy. Nature is about evolution. It's about reproduction. Both men, hetero and homosexual, as well as women, are interested in attractive partner, and are interested in very superficial criteria. So we need to understand that this does not make us happy. These superficial criteria, they are programmed into us, but it does not make us happy. So we should go for other values, which do not necessarily mean attractiveness to us. We don't find the other person attractive, but we can kind of understand that this person makes us happy. And so I would give different recommendations for the different categories that we talked about. So for women, for alpha male, and for beta male, meaning for the 90% of guys who are not alpha male. So I would say for the women, don't choose an alpha male. Don't choose the guy that is attractive, that is muscular, that is tall, that has financial stability, that is confident. Don't choose him, because that guy might not give you the emotional connection and the commitment that you're looking for. Go for the guy that will give you this commitment. And that's many times the guy who is not confident, not tall, not so successful. For the alpha men, I would say maybe, even though you're programmed for reproduction, you're programmed for a lot of women, maybe it makes sense for you to have one stable relationship. Maybe it can make you happier. And for the better men, I would say it's really getting tough right now. It's really getting tough with Tinder and social media. And I feel really bad for, well, I don't want to say it. For men, it's for men, heterosexual men looking for women, it's really getting tough. And Tinder is not helping at all, because women choose the alpha men. They don't go for all the rest of us. And so what I would say is, don't go the online way. Try to go the offline way. And specifically, my take would be go dancing. Learn how to dance and connect with women dancing. That you get one chance in to connect with a woman where it doesn't depend only on your looks and all these superficial things.
But don't you think that in normal life, meeting people, for example, at the university or at work, and that also lowers
Sure.
the
Sure.
the pressure on looks, because you
Sure.
get to know the personality and how they
Yes.
make you feel and
Yeah,
what vibes they
yeah,
have.
yeah. Of course, I agree. Yeah, of course. I totally agree. I would say maybe I was thinking about dancing for somebody who is, let's say, a digital nomad who doesn't have who comes to a country, doesn't know a lot of people. But otherwise, I mean, you're right. Of course, the job and college, university, and your friends are the best place to meet. But it's offline. It's not online, because online you're competing with all these alpha male, and women are far too selective, and that's why most men do not have any success. And that's why Tinder is all about sex, because not because men only want sex, but it's that women only choose the alpha men, the 10% who then get all the matches. They are all about sex. The rest of the guys want a stable relationship, but women don't go for those guys.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. There is definitely like a direct relationship between how much choice a guy has and how much likely he is to commit. Like, yeah,
True.
if he has way too much choice, he will be very unlikely to commit, and vice versa. But on the extreme of that spectrum, like if a woman goes for a guy who has absolutely no choices, I don't think it will make her happy, because he will be very needy. He will be, like a stalker. He will be blowing up her phone with messages 20 times a day. He will be very insecure, maybe very jealous, and so on. So I do believe that, like, it's better if people have still some choices, maybe not overwhelming amount of choice, but so they don't have to be so obsessed with one person and like making this work with this person, because otherwise they have nothing. That always leads to a lot of negativity, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, I do see your point. If somebody who has absolutely no choice, because he's very low value and then becomes very needy, that has maybe psychological problems, that's of course is bad. But I do believe that it's better to have somebody who is very committed and thereby maybe writes a lot of messages, is the one who sends text messages first, is calling a lot, might actually be better for the happiness, even though he's not attractive. So there's a difference again between what's considered attractive and what makes us happy. So generally, men and women, but I'd say more women would not be attracted to somebody who is very needy, who sends a lot of messages, who always shows her that he wants to be with her. However, she might be happy with that person.
But are you sure? Because like if she's already turned off by his behavior, where is that happiness going to come from if it's not an attractive behavior to show way more interest than the other person? Because then it communicates low value, and then she will be thinking that she's with someone who is below her, and she will feel unhappy about it, and she will feel like she's, not attracted physically, not
Okay.
attracted sexually.
So what I'm saying is, don't. I mean, I totally agree with your point. She will not be attracted, and therefore say, look, if I'm with somebody that I'm not attracted to, but I'm saying, live with it, because in the long term, it's gonna make you happier. You're with somebody who's maybe not confident enough, who's maybe short, skinny, bald, fat, not skinny and fat at the same time. Um, so you're not gonna find him attractive, but he's gonna make you happier in the long term.
In what way? How can they make them happy if they are so undesirable and low status?
Because it's like having a dog, like a dog that you feel he always needs you. When you come home, he's very happy, and you talk to the dog, and the dog kind of just looks at you, and so that can make people happy. Just having somebody there who you know cares for you. That if you are sick, he will take care of you. If you need to go somewhere with a car, he says, "Look, I'm gonna give you a ride." Who is always available, who always says, "You are my priority." Those are things that can make somebody happy, even though they don't find this guy attractive. I'm saying this because I've seen examples of girls who were only looking for the alpha guy. It's at a certain point in time said, okay, kind of like like what you said before, kind of had the realization, maybe I should be going for a non-alpha guy, because these alpha guys, they're all cheating on me, they don't have commitment issues. Going for a guy that was really pursuing them really hard, probably lower value in terms of attractiveness, but then those girls became happy, and they feel, look, I'm really happy now because this guy really cares for me. He does everything that I need. He really makes me feel that I'm the number one in his life. And I think people that feel that they're number one in somebody's life are happier than people that are with somebody attractive, where they always feel they have to fight for this person, and this person might still cheat on them.
That's interesting. I don't personally know examples like you just mentioned, but it would seem to me that this over pursuing and communicating low status would be coming from the wrong place, because if it's coming from insecurity, if it's coming from lack of options in the guy, I don't think it's healthy, and I don't think it can end it too well, because it's just not a healthy dynamic, basically, because the guy who is so sold on a woman already, like he just saw her and he's like, yeah, I would totally spend my whole life with her. He's a lot of things, like he's using his imagination a little bit too much. He doesn't know the girl yet, but he's accepting her 110%. So it's not a healthy dynamic. In the end, he might, be like super possessive, for example, or like super insecure. And I think in the long run, it will annoy her more and more. And then maybe she will also meet some alpha somewhere, and he will make her feel completely different set of emotions, like real primal attractions, and then she might cheat, actually. So the guy might not cheat, but she might be very likely to cheat in this.
Of course. I mean, so yes, I agree with you. I would say, of course, somebody who is attractive, and attractive not only being looks, attractive in many different ways, is prone to make somebody happier. The only thing I'm saying is that it's not because we're attracted to somebody that this person is going to make us happier. And I do think there is a divergence between, on the one hand, somebody that's going to make us happy and somebody that we're attracted to. The person that we are attracted to is not necessarily going to make us the happiest, while the person that might make us happiest might not be the person that is most attractive to us.
But would you also recommend to the guys, to the beta guys, let's say, to take a fat and ugly girl because she will always be into them and she will be, doing everything they want? Would that really be the ultimate solution for them as well, to like be aware every single minute of the relationship that they are selling themselves short? They could do so much better, but to like get it fast or whatever, they just settle down with whoever, I don't know. How do you see it? Does it work
Uh,
both ways?
yes,
Would guys
yes,
also choose to be attracted to someone who they're not attracted, and then it will make them happy?
yes. Haven't done any scientific studies on that, but what I would assume is that the person who has the higher level in the relationship, the highest status in relationship, meaning higher general overall attractiveness, overall market value, is the person who is more desirable than his partner. So basically, the partner has made a better catch because the partner kind of went to relationship going up with somebody who is more attractive. Okay, but I would believe that the more attractive partner is the person who's probably happier. Meaning, my advice would be for both, for men and for women, look for somebody who is your status or below, not your status and above, because we're looking for somebody who is our status or above. And I'd say look for somebody who is our status or below.
Yeah, but that goes directly against something very natural for women, which is hypergamy, which is trying to increase their social status by marriage, for example, marrying the rich guy, marrying the successful guy. So I think that's deeply ingrained because then the offspring should, will be provided with all the wealth and all the confidence from the guy and genes and so on. So maybe that's not how women are wired to
Of
go with
course.
the loser who has
Yeah.
nothing. And maybe they will not be happy. Like if they
Wait,
I don't
wait,
know.
okay,
Like
okay.
you have some
Wait,
examples, but
but
I
but
don't.
but Sebastian, you really make a good point. It's not what we are wired to do. We're wired to choose the most attractive person. Of course, both men and women, of course, will always choose the most attractive person that they can get. Yes, you're right. What I'm saying is that's not what's making us the happiest. It is what releases the dopamine. It's what nature wants us to do. So nature has made some mechanisms for us to be rewarded when we find somebody who is attractive. But for long-term happiness, that for me is does not lead to long-term happiness. The basic point is that there is a difference between what we should choose for our long-term happiness and what nature wants us to choose for short-term happiness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can see that. And then also, as we discussed, that you can see that reflected in the strategies of the women. When they're young, they go for the alphas. When they're older, then they want to settle down with the beta. That's true. And it might be that the alpha was actually unemployed, drug addicted, and abusive, and then the beta has a good job as a programmer and has a house. But is so there are different ways to be desirable at different
Of course.
stages of life. So there's this adrenaline kind of guy, and then there is this like stability, security, predictability, raising family together type of guy who might be better, but who might be also kind of successful, let's say financially, and has a high position in the society because he was studying when the other guy was doing drugs and riding his motorcycle. Right?
Exactly. Exactly. All right.
It's blended, like exactly this or that, and there are so many factors, right? And also the childhood decides, and also the pressures from the family and the society. I think they play a big role in terms of like how women behave and so on.
Okay. All right, Sebastian. I think we could summarize what we found out so far. So, how would you summarize, or do you want me to go first and summarize?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. Okay. So, I would say, number one, um, for our partner choice, there's a certain way nature programmed us to choose our partner. And this way is not the way that necessarily makes us the happiest. In particular, it means that we should not always go for the high value guys or girls, meaning the ones that are the most attractive in terms of looks, tall, financially stable, intelligent, and so on. But we should probably go for those that are giving us commitment, that make us feel special, that give us the emotional connection. And what I would say specifically is that girls, heterosexual girls, should look for guys who are not in their traditionally considered for them good guys, meaning they are not that tall, they are not that muscular, they are not that successful, they are not that confident, so they would probably be better guys that they would on Tinder would never swipe right for, but they might actually be the ones that might make them the happiest. And I would say for the alpha guys, that nature programmed you to reproduce and to have a lot of girls. But maybe in order to be happier, a long-term relationship can be more satisfying, meaning give you more long-term happiness. And I would say for the better guys, online probably is not the way to go, because you're competing with all the alpha guys, so you will probably have very little chances. Go offline, and yeah, go offline and try to meet women in a bar or via friends or while you work. So yeah,
yeah.
So that's my summary. What would you say?
Yeah, I was just thinking that maybe the fact that we always try to get a better partner than our sexual market value is actually driving the evolution of our species, and maybe like development of the world, because the beta males who cannot get, let's say, an attractive girl will then maybe go and try to do business and go to the gym and try to improve themselves. And maybe also for the girls that happens, that we want this better partner, so we want to become the better partner, so we work on ourselves, so we change. Whereas if you take someone who is below you, you might downgrade your standards, you might stop going to the gym, you may stop taking care of your appearance, because you don't need to, first of all because you do have the partner already, and secondly because this partner isn't that attractive anyway. So I don't know, maybe it will start a downward spiral if we just need to choose someone below us and like relax our standards in all areas of life, instead of trying to having this aspirational goal that maybe I'm 7 out of 10, but I want the 10 out of 10, so I will work on myself a lot. Especially for guys, I think it's possible in all of those ways to deserve that kind of person to be at their level. So maybe that's driving progress in some way.
I totally agree with you. I totally agree that for evolution, for the improvement of our gene pool, it's for nature, it's much better that we have the traditional model of going for the one that's most attractive. And I also agree that that the fact that people go for who is most attractive gives a lot of incentive to women, and especially to guys, to go up the ladder and increase the social value, which of course increases economic productivity.
And
So
it makes the world a better place for everyone, because if you go and you study and you come up with a new vaccine or whatever, you invent something on that pursuit just to like maybe have better quality women in your life or something, that can then help everyone. So this is interesting. It's almost like capitalism versus communism.
yeah,
Incentives matter. Incentives really matter. You can see that in relationships. Like when people are married for 30 years, they usually don't really take good care of themselves. Whereas if you let's say you see the guy who is married for 30 years and he's probably overweight and he doesn't take good care of himself, and then you see, let's say, a gay guy sitting next to him on subway, the same age, and he looks amazing because he still has incentives. If he looks good, he can score with a lot of other guys. So, removing incentives can destroy society in a way. So I'm just like throwing a word of caution here.
All right. And what is your advice for those three categories that I defined, for women, alpha guys, and beta guys?
Okay, so for women, I believe that they should realize that their sexual market value will be declining at some point. So the fact that they have a lot of options right now doesn't mean it's going to last forever. So potentially for everyone, trying to find the equal is the best. So don't go too much above your market value, and then maybe also thinking about different relationship models, so that it's not only being alone and being married, but like there are some combinations of different things in between that might suit better different people. And then for alpha guys, you were recommending them a relationship. I do believe that having at least one deep relationship with someone you really care about is an experience you should have in your lifetime, for sure. And that is whether you decide to, stay in it, or you just have that experience and then you become single and you want to be single for your whole life, that's fine. But having that experience is valuable, definitely, to
Mm-hmm.
just know how it is. And then for beta guys, yeah, they do have a lot of incentives to improve, and especially not just, improve your income or improve something else, but improve the neediness, and like maybe get a lot of fulfillment from other areas of life. Make sure that your life works in different ways. So you are happy in your career, you're happy in your personal development, you're growing. If you make yourself happy in many different ways, then you will not be so desperately needy towards girls. And then learn the game, because the game also needs to be, played in the right way. And this is counterintuitive. And that's, I think, what can help a lot of people.
Okay, great. Good summary. Good advice. Sebastian, this last question for you. Do you see yourself more like, which category do you see yourself? A woman? An alpha guy? Or a beta guy?
I definitely started as a beta.
Mhm.
And then I think I'm progressively moving to something that is also called like Alpha 2.0, which is
Oh,
not really like an alpha that's beating everyone up. It's more like outcome independent type of person who is, not needy, and has potentially an interesting life, and has his own vision of a relationship that's not necessarily defined by society as, marriage or something like that. So going their own, going your own way.